I have been working through the Septuagint and the Hebrew text, looking at the great Messianic Psalm of Psalm 2. We are doing an inductive grammatical study of the Hebrew and then of the Septuagint, looking at each word or each phrase grammatically, and also in translation, and then doing a comparison. And so now we have come down to verse 10 of Psalm 2 through verse 12. I'll do the Hebrew first, and then we'll go into the Septuagint and look at the inductive Hebrew grammar there. We now read verse 10, and I should say in the context, the nations are raging against the anointed of God. But God is in heaven in verses 6 and 4 to 6. After the raging in 1 to 3, God is taking it in and basically has determined that his son will reign, that his king will reign. This is followed then by the words of the king in verses 7 to 9, where the king speaks and says, "This day I have begotten you. The Lord said to me, you are my son, Beni ata. This day, ani hayom yoliticha. This day I have begotten you. And all you have to do is ask of me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance and the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. And you will break them with a rod of iron, and as vessels of a potter you will dash them to pieces." We've looked at the Hebrew all the way through and the Septuagint up now to verse 10. And we have applied it in a dualistic way. First of all, looking at the coronation of David, possibly, or another Israeli king, and the revolt that was going on. We had said that Rashi refers this to 2 Samuel 5:17, where the Philistines come up against David when they heard that he was anointed king. Others apply it at another point, but the ultimate fulfillment in terms of New Testament theology is Jesus Christ looking at the cross in Acts chapter 4, the nations raging against the Lord, Luke tells us in the book of Acts, and then the coronation day, according to Acts 13, in a sermon preached by Paul, is the resurrection. The resurrection was the coronation day of our Lord Jesus Christ. And then finally, the second advent in Revelation 19, where he will shepherd the nations with an iron scepter, referring back to the Septuagint, a king doing shepherding work. And we could possibly render that verb, koimaine, as meaning he will rule the nations. But at any rate, we now come to verse 10 to 12, in which the psalmist is going to tell the kings to cool the rebellion. So it reads, Va'ata melachim haskilu, hivasru shofetei aretz. And now, kings, be wise, be admonished, be instructed, judges of the earth. Notice haskilu is from sakal, to be wise. And notice here we have a hifil imperative, masculine plural, with the he prefix followed by the vowel, thematic vowel pattern of a pathak and a hirik yod, or an ai thematic vowel pattern. So be admonished or be wise, and then be admonished, hivasru, from yasar. And notice here, it's interesting, we have a he prefix, but we have a nifal imperative, masculine plural, and from yashar. Here we have the I-A vowel pattern with the doubling of the vav here, because this was a pei vav verb, and the noon of the nifal, hin vasuru, becomes hib vasuru, with that doggish forte in the vav, showing a doubling. So here we have back to back a hifil imperative, followed then by a nifal imperative, both beginning with hey, but one having an ai vowel pattern, the hifil, and the nifal an ia vowel pattern, with the doubling of the first radical of the root in the vav. It is interesting. I don't know, but perhaps historically, and I can't prove this, but maybe the hey of the hifil was borrowed by the nifal historically, because the hey prefix normally introduces a hifil stem, where here in the imperative we do have the hey, but we have a different vowel pattern which fits the nifal stem. So whether there was a borrowing from the hifil by the nifal at some point historically in Hebrew grammar development, I don't know. But it's interesting, we have that here. We move on to verse 11. If do it Adonai b'yirah v'gilu b'iradah, that is, serve the Lord with fear or with reverence, and rejoice with trembling. So he's addressing the nations to serve the Lord with fear. Notice if do is a cow imperative, masculine plural, from avad, and then we have gilu from gil, a middle weak form, hirik yod, a cow imperative, masculine plural, again, that is rejoice with trembling. And the thought here is humbly yield to what's happening and accept this decree that the king now is going to be coronated by Yahweh, and so serve the Lord by recognizing this, would be what the psalmist is saying to the revolting kings. Then in verses 12 and following, or I should say verse 12, there's no following, but verse 12, Nashku var penya anov v'tovadu derek ki yiv'ar kimata po ashrei kol chosevo. That is, kiss the sun, is the way I would translate this, lest he be angry and you perish in the way when his wrath is suddenly kindled. Happy are all who take refuge in him. Now notice, nashku is a debated, these two words are debated, nashku var. Many or some want to translate this as kiss the sun differently. They would want to translate it kiss with purity, and hence do homage, or homage, I should say, in purity. Var can mean pure. We have that in, for example, chapter 24, Psalm 24. Blessed are the pure in heart, and var is used there. Again, I personally see it differently. I would render this kiss the sun, and I would understand var to be an Aramaic word for sun, but also a rare Hebrew word for sun. We see it in Proverbs 31, where var, in the first part of that Proverbs, where var is used, we could say to mean sun, and in that sense, interchangeably with ben. Ben is the normal word for sun. But here, I'm thinking that the psalmist is highlighting the word var, that is, kiss the var, kiss the sun, and using a normal Aramaic word for sun to italicize it, but also a rare Hebrew word. And so I think the emphasis is upon var, the emphasis is upon sun, would be my take on it. Also, nashku var pin, kiss the sun lest he be angry. Pin, had we had bin pin, that is nashku bin pin, it seems that what has happened here, possibly in the writing of the psalm, is a dissimilation from bin pin to var pin in the writing of the psalm by David. So in my understanding, I would understand var to mean sun, a very, not an impossible understanding, but a very possible understanding if we understand that var can be italicized and emphasized, sort of like we might say, this is the summum bonum of everything. We quote the Latin, this is the highest good of everything. So in my take on it, kiss the var and nashak means to kiss. By the way, it's a PL form here, a PL imperative, masculine plural from nashak. So kiss the son would be my understanding, italicizing son, lest he be angry. Yeah, anaf is the cow imperfect third masculine singular from anaf, lest he be angry and you perish. Notice tovadu from avad is the cow imperfect second person plural, masculine plural from avad, lest you perish in the way, ki yavad kim at apo, when his wrath is suddenly kindled. Yavad, cow imperfect third masculine singular from va'ad, and then happy, ashrei kol chosevo, happy are all who take refuge in him. Notice chesed, I should say, is a cow participle masculine plural. So it is interesting to me, in my understanding of it, the psalmist is saying, kiss the son, lest he be angry, with italicizing the son, and you perish in the way when his wrath is suddenly kindled. And one other thing, notice Ashrei Kol Chosevo, that here we have Ashrei again, concluding this psalm, as we started Psalm 1 with Ashrei Ha'ish, Asher Lo Halak Be'esat Reshaim. So we have Ashrei beginning Psalm 1, Ashrei concluding here. We also have Yegu in Psalm 1 verse 2, but he meditates on the Torah day and night. And here we have a Yeguing by the nations, the people's Yegu, a vain thing. And in the Talmud, it is interesting, the Talmud suggests that this could have been one psalm connected by Ashrei and connected by Haggah. I don't know whether I would personally take that point of view. I would see it as two different psalms, but it is interesting that we have the verb Haggah and the verb or the Ashrei, happy ones, are all, we have the adjective in Asher, or happy, I should say happinesses. We could take it as a noun in the plural, and we're seeing it again, happy are all who take refuge in him. The same, can I say, root. But at any rate, with the Hebrew then, I would understand this to teach that one is to do homage to the Son, the King that's being coronated, and then in the New Testament, seeing it to refer to Jesus Christ, doing homage to him. It is interesting that the Puritans used to conclude their sermons by encouraging their congregation to kiss the Son, applying it to Christ. Now I would like to do the Septuagint, and we begin at verse 10. And it reads, Kainun basiles sunete, paduthete pantes hoi krenantes tain gain. And now, kings, understand, from sunemi. Notice it's a present imperative second masculine plural from sunemi, understand, and then be instructed. Notice paiduthete is from paiduo. It is the aorist passive subjunctive with the theta, eta, the tau, and the epsilon. So be instructed, judges, all judges of the earth. In other words, all you, we could say, who are judging the earth. Notice klenontes is from kleno. It's a present participle, nominative masculine plural from kleno. So kings, we have the same, almost the same rendering as the Hebrew. We do have understanding, where Hebrew has be wise, and then be instructed, all judges of the earth, where in Hebrew we have be admonished. So it would be a pretty fairly close translation. Then verse 11, Dulusate to Kyrio in fabo, kai agia agaliaste auto in dramo. That is, serve the Lord in fear and rejoice in him with trembling. Notice doulusate is your aorist imperative second person plural from douluo. So serve the Lord in fear, the same idea as the Hebrew, and rejoice with trembling. Again, very close to the Hebrew, pretty much the same. Agialasta mean to rejoice, and here we have another imperative from agialao. So we have a present, a middle imperative, rejoice in him with trembling. Then verse 12, we have an interesting read. It's different than I have suggested in my understanding of the Hebrew. Draxaste paideas me pate orgiste curias, kai apaleste ex hadu decaias, haten acauthe in tanke hatumas autu, macarioi pantes hoi pepoistates ep auto. That is, accept correction, lest at any time, lest the Lord should at any time be angry and you should perish out of the righteous way or from the righteous way, whenever his wrath shall be suddenly kindled, whenever his thumos should be suddenly kindled, happy are all who trust in him. Notice draxaste is from drasamai, meaning to lay hold of. So what the Septuagint translators read was lay hold of instruction by deos. And so it seems to me they're interpreting the Hebrew nashku var as kiss with purity, and they're making, I would say, more of a paraphrase, lay hold of paideos, of instruction. And you do that by doing homage or kissing the Son, is the way they would be rendering it, lest at any time the Lord be angry. Notice orgiste is the aorist passive subjunctive from orgizo, third masculine singular. Lest the Lord be angry and you should perish. Notice you shall perish out of the righteous way. Apaleste from apolumi, future indicative middle, second person plural from apolumi, lest you should perish out of the righteous way. That is going away against what the Lord is doing in coronating the king. And then it says, whenever his wrath should be suddenly kindled. Notice ekauthe is from ekao, to kindle or to set a flame. And notice here we have the aorist subjunctive passive with the theta eta from ekao, lest his wrath should be suddenly kindled. And then blessed, makarioi pates hoi pepoisates ep auto. Blessed are all who trust in him. Notice hoi pepoisates is a participle, a perfect who are trusting in him, a perfect participle nominative plural from patho, meaning to trust. So he concludes by saying, happy are all who trust in him. It is interesting then that the Septuagint on this particular verse wants to render it, or did render it, accept correction or lay hold of correction, which seems to me to say that they had read the nashkuvar as something like kiss with purity, referring to accepting the coronation of the king. And they then rendered it lay hold of correction. They're giving it, I would see, more of a paraphrastic, a paraphrase, translation at that point. So then, again, having compared that, going back to my own suggestion, I believe that nashkuvar can be rendered as kiss the Son. And we then talked about in the previous discussion on the grammar as to why. That var can mean son in Aramaic and can be a rare use of the word in Hebrew, like in Proverbs 31. So in light of that, I would see this great psalm concluding from the Hebrew, following the Masoretic text, with kiss the Son. That is, put your allegiance in him. And as a Christian interpreter, I would see that referring to Christ in the New Testament, where there is that encouragement to bow down to him and worship him as the coronated, resurrected King, raised on the third day. And Paul said that was his coronation day, and worship the resurrected King, the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you.